still think about this story sometimes. Even now, it still haunts me. I was very young when it happened. I was 6 years old, around the age when childhood memories start becoming clearer. I had one sibling, my older brother Keith. He was 2 years older than me, so he was 8 at the time. We had a strict bedtime, 8:30. If our dad caught either of us awake past that, we'd be in serious trouble. Our dad was always strict. I don't remember if this happened on a school night. All I remember is being shaken awake in the middle of the night. It was Keith. He whispered for me to be quiet and to listen. At first, I didn't understand why. Then I heard it, our mom's voice coming from downstairs. But it wasn't normal. It was quiet, soft, almost like a whisper. I started to sit up, ready to answer her, but Keith grabbed my arm. He told me not to. He said he didn't think it was Mom. I told him to stop trying to scare me. I remember being angry at him. He told me to get closer and listen carefully. We shared a large bedroom upstairs. Our parents slept on the first floor. Right outside our room was a small hallway leading to the bathroom and the spare bedroom where our grandma slept when she visited. To the right of our bedroom door was the stairway leading downstairs. It had its own door. I walked up to our bedroom door and pressed my ear against it. The voice became clearer. It sounded exactly like our mom, calling our names. "Keith, Mikey," I whispered to my brother. "That's Mom." He whispered back, "No, it's not." Somehow, even though I was the younger one, I found the courage to open the door. I stepped into the hallway, then slowly unlocked the stairway door. I pulled it open just enough so it wouldn't make a sound, and I looked down the stairs. At the bottom was the silhouette of a person, a woman. But immediately, I knew it wasn't our mom. She saw me, and she spoke. "Hi, sweetie, come down here." I slammed the door shut, locked it, ran back into our bedroom and locked that door too. I started crying. Keith kept whispering, "I told you." We decided to scream as loud as we could. On the count of 3, we stomped on the floor and screamed with everything we had. Seconds later, our parents came rushing upstairs. At first, our dad was angry that the door was locked, but the moment they saw my face, they knew something was wrong. We told them everything. My mom looked terrified. She told us she had not been downstairs. She had not called our names. She asked what the woman looked like, but we couldn't describe her. We only saw the shape. I remember my dad running downstairs to search the house. After a while, my mom tucked us back into bed. She told us to lock the doors. That was the first time we were ever told to do that. Later that night, we heard the doorbell ring. When we looked out the window, we saw a police car outside. We wanted to go downstairs, but we stayed in our room. We begged our parents to tell us who the woman was. They always said they didn't know. They said it was just a random intruder. But even years later, they still won't talk about it. And there's one thing that explanation never answered. How did that woman know our names? I live in a 2-floor house with my sister. It's what they call a mother-daughter house. 2 kitchens, 2 separate living spaces. She lives downstairs. I live upstairs. My sister isn't home very often. Most nights she stays with her boyfriend who lives about 20 miles away. I'm 30 years old. I shouldn't be afraid of being alone, but sometimes I am, especially at night. That night, I was sitting alone in my living room watching a horror movie. My entire floor is an open layout, the kitchen, dining room, and living room all connected into one large space. The couch sits right in the center, which means while I watched the TV, my back was facing the darkness behind me. The only light in the room came from the screen. I kept glancing over my shoulder. After the movie ended, I brushed my teeth, turned off every light, and went to bed. I slept for about 2 hours. Then I woke up. It was around 1 a.m. At first, I didn't know why I was awake. And then I heard a voice downstairs. It sounded exactly like my sister. She wasn't outside. She was inside the house. I couldn't understand what she was saying at first. I was still half asleep. I assumed she must have come home unexpectedly, or maybe she was arguing with her boyfriend. I stepped into the dark hallway and turned on the lights. As I reached the stairs, I heard her again. This time, she was saying my name. I walked downstairs, calling back, "What is it?" I couldn't find the light switch in the foyer. Everything felt wrong, slow, unreal. I turned on the kitchen light. The bulbs flickered, slowly brightening the room. No one was there. Not my sister, not her boyfriend. Her bedroom was empty. I yelled her name once. Nothing answered. Then something fell inside her bedroom. I had just checked it. It was empty. I ran upstairs like a frightened child and locked myself in my room. I called her phone again and again. No answer. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me back to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my sister asking why I called her at 1 a.m. She wasn't home that night. She never was. When I checked her bedroom again, nothing had fallen. There was nothing on the floor. I tell myself I hallucinated it, because the alternative is far more terrifying. I was home alone a lot as a kid. My mom worked overnight shifts as a nurse and my brother was away at college. One weekend night, a girl I liked came over. Her name was Molly. We watched a couple of movies before she had to leave. Less than 10 minutes after she walked out the door, I heard a chair scraping across the deck outside my bedroom window. I looked down. Someone was sitting in one of the chairs. I called out Molly's name thinking she'd forgotten something. The person looked up at me. It wasn't her. I backed away from the window immediately. I texted my friends thinking maybe one of them was messing with me. None of them were. When I looked again, the man was still there, staring up at my window. I shut off the TV and hid in my bed. I didn't even turn my phone screen on. I was afraid he'd see the light. After several minutes, I checked again. He hadn't moved. When I asked him what he wanted, his shoulders began shaking. He was laughing, no sound, just wheezing breath. Then he tried the back door, then the front. I was 14 years old. If the doors hadn't been locked, I wouldn't be alive today. This is the story of the night I almost died. I was 10 years old. My older brother was 14. My little sister was 5. It was a Friday night when the hospital called. My brother had been hit by a car. I remember my mother crying hysterically while my dad tried to calm her down. They rushed to get their coats, grabbed my sister, and asked if I was okay staying home alone. I said yes. I didn't want to see my brother in the hospital like that. After they left, the house felt unnaturally quiet. I stayed in my room playing video games until well past midnight. That's when I heard the front door open. I assumed my parents were back, but I didn't hear their voices. Minutes passed. Something felt wrong. I opened my bedroom door and looked over the banister into the living room below. The lights were off, but 3 tall figures were standing there. They weren't my family. Fear froze my body. I quietly shut my door and crawled into my closet, hiding behind boxes and clothes. Moments later, my bedroom door opened. Footsteps crossed the floor. Someone touched my bed. Then silence. The footsteps moved closer. The closet door opened. I held my breath as hard as I could. Whoever stood there remained silent for nearly 20 seconds. Then the door closed. They left the room. An hour later, my parents returned. The front door was wide open. Valuables were gone. I still don't know if that man saw me hiding, or if I survived purely by luck. I was home alone for an entire week when I was still a teenager. That almost never happened. My parents didn't go out much, but one of my mom's wealthy friends paid for them to go on a trip. I was an only child, so the house was completely mine. We lived in Newark, Ohio, in a place called Licking County. Yeah, that was actually the name. Our house sat on a quiet road where only a few cars passed each day. Behind it were thick woods, deep woods. We had a large deck overlooking them, a fish pond, and an above-ground swimming pool. This happened on a Thursday night in July of 2013. I remember because I had been texting friends about weekend plans earlier that day. That night, I was sitting alone on the deck, smoking weed, music playing through a speaker beside me. That's when it started. I thought I heard a voice coming from the woods. I turned the music down and listened. Nothing. So I turned the music back up. A few seconds later, I heard it again. This time, I shut the music off completely. The voice came from the trees, a man's voice, calm, distant. "Hey, over here." The woods were only about 20 or 30 yards away. I didn't think much of it at first. I assumed it was kids messing around, maybe playing a game in the dark. Then the voice spoke again. "Hey, over here, we need help." That's when my stomach tightened. The voice was too deep to be a kid's. And when someone says we need help, that gets your attention. I started to feel uneasy. Then the voice yelled again, "Straight in front of you, please, come help us." Now I knew it was directed at me. I hesitated, then called back, "Who is that?" The voice replied instantly, "We just need help. We're stuck in the woods." I asked what that meant. The voice only said, "Please, come here, straight in front of you." I stood up, walked down the deck stairs, and stepped onto the grass. As I moved toward the trees, I called out, "I'm coming, where are you?" The response came immediately, too immediately. "Right in front of you, I see you." I froze. Something felt wrong, deep in my gut. I asked, "Are you alone? Or with someone?" No answer. That's when I stopped walking. I slowly backed away toward the house. I didn't even want to turn my back on the woods. It finally hit me how suspicious the whole thing was. If they could see me, how were they stuck? When I reached the deck, the voice went silent. Completely. If it was real, they would have yelled again, at least asked where I was going. But they didn't. I went inside and locked every door. I sat on the couch for a while, still high, and trying to calm myself down. Then I heard the voice again, closer, much closer. It wasn't coming from the woods anymore. It was in my backyard. I heard splashing water, from the pool or the pond. I rushed to the window. At first I saw nothing. Then the voice laughed and said, "I see you." I spotted him, at least one man, crouched behind the pool. I could only see his head, dark hair, medium length. I slammed the blinds shut. I hoped he'd lose interest, that he'd leave if I didn't react. But then, violent pounding exploded against the window. The glass shook. On the other side he screamed, "Help! Help me!" While laughing, I screamed back that the police were coming. Over and over, trying to sound crazier than him. His laughter slowly faded, until there was nothing. I sat on the couch, shaking, barely breathing. Eventually, the night went quiet. He never came back. But ever since that night, I've been extremely careful about who I open my door to. I'm 23 years old and I still live at home with my parents. One afternoon, both of them were gone. I was outside in the front yard, shooting hoops by myself. At some point, I looked up at one of our upstairs windows, and that's when I saw her, a woman standing inside my house, watching me. She wasn't my mom, she wasn't my sister, she was a complete stranger. The moment she noticed me staring at her, she stepped away from the window. I ran inside immediately. I checked the upstairs, every bedroom, the bathroom, every closet, nothing. Then I checked the downstairs, the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, even the spare bedroom, still nothing. Finally, I went down into the basement. It was small. A couple couches, a bar, 2 closets, not many places for someone to hide. When I opened the last closet door, my heart was pounding. This was the final unchecked spot in the entire house. I ripped the door open fast, like tearing off a bandage. I lunged inside, just in case she was hiding there. But all I hit were coats and empty hangers. I was completely confused. I knew what I had seen. This wasn't something you imagine. I went back upstairs and screamed as loud as I could, telling whoever was in my house to get the hell out. I screamed so loud that my next-door neighbor came over. I told him everything, about the woman, about the window. He helped me search again. We found nothing. The only explanation was that she had slipped out the back door, the same door I'd left unlocked earlier. After he left, I locked every door in the house. I called my parents and told them the whole story. Nothing appeared stolen. That night, I checked the house one more time before going to bed. Sleep didn't come easily. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Seeing a stranger inside your home is not something you forget. Hours later, as I was finally drifting off, I heard movement beside me. I had a fan running, so the room wasn't silent. At first, I tried to ignore it. Then the sounds became human. I turned to my other side, and there she was, crawling out from underneath my bed. She slowly stood up, towering over me. I screamed louder than I ever had before. I jumped out of bed and tackled her to the floor. My hand was around her throat as I demanded to know who she was. That's when my doorbell rang. My neighbor again. I dragged the woman toward the front door as she clawed and fought me. I still have 2 scars on my right arm from her nails. My neighbor helped restrain her while I called the police. She screamed the entire time, cursing, threatening us. She looked completely deranged. When the police arrived, one officer recognized her immediately. They had dealt with her many times before. Her name was Karen. Watching her get placed into the back of the police car was strangely satisfying. That night, my mind still raced. I was terrified, but beneath the fear, there was an unsettling feeling I couldn't explain. Relief. This happened when I was 16. I was still in high school. I didn't have a car yet, so I depended on my parents for rides, or walking if it was close. It was the weekend. My friend Haley was having people over since her parents weren't home. My mom drove me there. Haley lived nearby, about a 3-minute drive, or a 20-minute walk. My mom was single at the time and liked going out. She told me that if she was out late, I should either walk home or get a ride, which meant she had a date. A few of my girlfriends were there, Tina, Courtney, Belle, 5 girls total, including me. We hung out in the backyard for hours, until some boys from our school showed up. Unexpectedly, Haley hadn't told me she invited them. I was annoyed because one of those boys was someone I had a bad history with, someone I didn't want to see. Haley thought she was being cute, trying to make us work things out. It just made everything awkward. 4 boys, 5 girls. Eventually, I wasn't feeling it anymore, so I left. I texted Haley while walking home, telling her how upset I was. She apologized. I forgave her, but I still wanted to go home. I had been walking for about 5 minutes when I slowed down. I thought I heard footsteps behind me. When I slowed, the footsteps slowed too. I turned around. A middle-aged man stood behind me, hood up, hands inside his sweatshirt pockets. He was smiling. "How you doing?" he said. I replied, "Hi," and kept walking. We were in the suburbs. People walking late wasn't unheard of, but 5 more minutes passed, and every time I looked back, he was still there. Same distance, maybe a little closer. The walk home wasn't straight. I had to make several turns. Every turn I made, he made too. I started texting my friends. Then I heard him speak again. "Nice night, isn't it? Love this weather." "Yeah," I replied. That was it. I walked faster, not enough to look suspicious, but enough to feel safer. Then he spoke again. Every word made my stomach drop. "Are you from the neighborhood?" "No," I answered. Short, firm. He chuckled. I begged my friends through text to send someone to pick me up. Ironically, the boy I was trying to avoid was the one who came. I'll call him Brandon. Then the man said something that changed everything. "I'm not going to hurt you." I froze. Then he added, "You live by the elementary school, right?" I turned around. He stopped walking, still smiling, but now it looked wrong, fake, sinister. I screamed, "Leave me alone," and I ran. I heard him running behind me, getting closer. At that point, I thought my life was on the line. I screamed as loud as I could, "Help me!" Lights began turning on in houses. The man dropped his friendly act. "Shut up, you little..." He stopped. My screaming scared him away. He disappeared into the darkness. A couple came out of their house. I told them I had almost been kidnapped. I waited there until Brandon arrived. He drove me home. It was less than a minute away. My mom wasn't home yet. She wasn't answering her phone. I didn't want to be alone, so Brandon stayed the night. Hours later, we heard footsteps circling the house. My bedroom was upstairs, facing the backyard. We heard the gate open. My mom would never enter that way. Something was wrong. We looked out the window. Silence. Then a man's voice said, "I see you up there." I gasped and stepped back. Brandon yelled, "We're calling the cops, you freak!" And we did. The fact that he knew where I lived terrified me. The police arrived quickly. Just seeing them made me feel safer. My mom came home soon after, completely shaken. A patrol car stayed on our block for hours that night. After that, I never walked alone at night again. I was afraid even to go into our backyard. My mom installed security cameras everywhere, no hiding them. She wanted them visible. About a year later, she sold the house. She couldn't stand seeing me live in fear. We never found out who that man was.